My husband supported me in my dream, and 13 years later I discovered his infidelity. Like stupid teenagers, we secretly got married at 20 and moved in together. Our families thought he was my boyfriend, not my husband. We were both at the same university at night, and in the mornings we had a job. My dream since I was very little was always to be a dancer, but my parents couldn't afford to pay for an academy. They are too expensive, and my parents also think that these types of hobbies are a great waste of time, that it is better to study and then get a good job, then get a house and then get married. They wanted to reflect what they couldn't have in me and my brothers. My husband told me that he was going to help me. He paid for my dance classes. He changed jobs to a heavier one, but the pay was a little better. We had to limit ourselves to many things and even move to a much smaller apartment. He helped me fulfill my dream. He never complained about the lack of money. He never blamed me. He supported me to get ahead, and I achieved it. Of course, at the age of 20 it is a little more difficult to learn this type of art, but I achieved it thanks to my husband. I was always grateful to him, and I always will be. Now we are in a much better situation than before. We have our house and we plan to have children soon, perhaps when we are 35, to be able to save a little more and cover the necessary expenses that a child requires. Since we have each other's passwords, I grabbed his cell phone because he had the photos from my niece's last birthday. I saw and he had his cell phone in airplane mode. When I took it off, a few minutes passed and several messages began to fall. The contact had a man's name, but the messages were a little strange. They could be read in the notification bar. The messages: "Not exactly, honey, are you home yet? Write to me when you can." I checked the number and it was one of my friends. I had deleted his conversation with her, so I took a screenshot of the last messages she sent. I told him that same night and he started asking for forgiveness and crying. We both cried. He hurt me so much. He confessed that it has been going on for about 5 months. My friend and he worked together, so they started getting closer now that she got divorced. He said that he is going to cut off all communication with her, and if I want, he change his job, he will do it. I mentioned divorce and he became hysterical, begging me to give him a second chance. I really lost trust in him, and a certain part of me wants a divorce. But another part of me really loves him, and I'm so grateful to him for supporting me years ago that a certain part of me is holding me back from making a decision. In recent days he has been coming home early from work. He brings me flowers and chocolates. He initiates intimacy every night. My libido is pretty high, but we only did it once a week because he was tired. Should I forgive him and move forward in the marriage? Can that trust be recovered? I have seen that many marriages recover after infidelity, and that it can be done with marriage therapy. Comment. With a friend of yours, no less. I don't know. Probably that part of you that wants a divorce is going to win out once he gets tired of groveling. I will caution that cheaters always turn to love bombing after being caught, and they do everything you had been wanting them to do before you find out, but it disappears after a few months and it'll turn to "I've been doing ABC, you should have forgiven me by now." Please seek infidelity counseling. Love bombing is scary. I was listening to a podcast where they talk about love bombing. It's basically a way of eroding your sense of self. It feels amazing, but it's incredibly manipulative. Love bombing is a massive red flag in my opinion. Get as far away as you can to make clean and clear decisions on your own, without someone manipulating you. My personal opinion is that once trust has been broken like that, it's over. Some people successfully work a lifetime to rebuild that trust. Kudos to those that can. Personally, I can't. My life is too short for that. Exactly. The same thing happened to me. Once the trust is gone, I couldn't take him back. Trust is the basis of marriage. Without trust, nothing works out. He asked to come back, but I couldn't do it. Good luck. Especially when it was with your friend. That relationship would also end. You need to evaluate the person he is now, not the person he was 13 years ago. The person he is now cheated on you for 5 months and would still be doing it had you not caught him. He is now love bombing you, but eventually that will turn to resentment that you haven't forgiven him yet. The truth is, the trust never comes back. It's about what you're willing to accept. Are you willing to be with someone that would do this to you? How does getting you? You also only heard his story? You should talk to the friend and find out how this happened. My guess is he left a lot out. The final choice is yours, and only you know if you can and want to forgive him and forget all of this happened or not. But if I was you, I'd think about 3 important things. 1. He cheated on you for 5 months. Not 1 time, not 2 times, 5 months. He chose to cheat on you. He did it consciously. And he did it with a friend of yours too. There's no love in these actions. 2. The affair isn't going on anymore only because you discovered it. If you didn't see the messages, he probably would have never told you, and who knows how long this affair would have lasted. Again, no sign of real and genuine love. 3. He is giving you chocolate, flowers, and is initiating intimacy because he was discovered and now wants you to forgive him. He couldn't care less before. You don't owe him anything. He was a great partner and he supported you greatly, and you can be thankful for what he did, but this doesn't mean you have to stay with him. Think about what he did now, not what he did years ago. Cheating is a big deal breaker for me, but that's my opinion. If you want to try counseling, do it and see how it goes. But keep in mind that you have every right to leave if you want, and you'd be right in doing so. She has absolutely no idea if it isn't going on any longer. I'd bet it is. They still work together and see each other every day. Opportunities are plentiful with that kind of access to each other and in that environment. Usually when caught, especially so if they're still working together and have an excuse to be in contact, they just take it further underground and have better OPSEC. Or maybe, they lay low for a bit and perhaps pause certain aspects of the physical part of their affair until the betrayed can be lulled into a false sense of security. Once that happens and they think the coast is clear, the affair will ramp right back up, all while the betrayed thinks they're reconciling, only to eventually find out it was false reconciliation and they're blindsided to find out the affair never actually ended. If he's all in on reconciliation, then he needs to leave that job immediately, period. If it was one drunk moment maybe, but you are talking about at least 5 months or lying and cheating, with lots of effort to hide. It wasn't just an error in judgment. He might be a good friend who supported you, might definitely an untrustworthy partner. You say it wasn't lack of SEC in your part who drove home away, so perhaps she finds something more desirable somewhere else. How you can make sure he won't do it again? What has changed on him other than being not too careful and caught? Hadn't you read the messages, how far they would go? If you could answer all these questions and feel you can trust him again, good for you. Next story 2. BF says he wants to get married, but I don't think we'll ever do it. Is it worth bringing it up? My partner and I have been together for 6.5 years. We're practically married, joint finances, shared goals, moved together abroad, etc. We know we want to spend the rest of our lives together. We know when we want to have kids. We have talked about marriage many times. We both want to get married and believe in the significance of it, but he sees it less as of a priority. He actually almost proposed once, when we were traveling for an extended period of time, but ultimately decided to put it off because we already had a lot of things going on during the trip. It's also worth noting that he's much more reserved than I am and hates being the center of attention and is more iffy about the idea of a big wedding, which, given how much bigger my family and friends circles are, I totally get. I also don't want a huge, expensive wedding, which I've told him. We both agree that something small with select people would be nice. But the thing is, I'm always the one to bring it up. And whenever we talk about our concrete action plans for the future, saving up to buy a house, having kids, getting married doesn't come up unless I bring it up. I pointed this out before, to which he responds with it being something we can always do down the line and how there are more urgent things to invest our time and resources in. And I do agree that there's other things to be thinking about, but lately I've been feeling more and more that there will always be other more pressing things. I've also said I'd even be happy with just a private civil wedding and that we can celebrate with our loved ones later on. He's also said that he feels bad when I bring it up, because then it makes him feel like he's failed me or disappointed me, and so I've also stopped bringing it up. The last time we talked about it was 6 months ago, and before that it was maybe every 1 to 2 years. While it's not ultimately a deal breaker for me and I'm glad we're choosing to spend our lives together regardless of a piece of paper, it's been making me a little sad again recently because I am slowly realizing that we probably won't ever really do it. I'm trying to just slowly let go of that expectation, but I also don't like not being honest with my partner about how I'm feeling. Is it worth bringing it up and how can I go about it without making him feel bad? Comment. Besides, he is hurting her by procrastinating and avoiding the subject, and he doesn't seem to care about inflicting pain on her, so she shouldn't be so delicate about potentially hurting his feelings. To be honest, I would seriously reconsider having kids or buying a house together without getting married first. Especially with kids, a woman puts herself in such a hugely vulnerable position: loss of income and career potential, potential injury/disability during childbirth, without the protection and rights marriage gives you. I wouldn't want to risk it. I would sit him down and try to hammer out a potential timeline for your goals, marriage, house, children. And if you absolutely cannot reach common ground on that, I'd start to disentangle your finances and prepare myself to move on. Think, with refusing to put a ring on it, he's basically saying he doesn't want to fully commit to you, even after 6.5 years. He wants to retain the freedom to walk away whenever he wants, except maybe having to pay child support, which you may not even be able to enforce, if he is moving abroad. You're still young at 29, plenty of time to start over with someone who has more compatible goals. If you agree not to get married, at least make sure all your paperwork is in order, all the powers of attorney, rights to medical information and decision-making, inheritance, life insurance beneficiaries. Make sure his parents can't force you to sell your house to pay them their inheritance in case he suddenly keels over. Oh, and your kids should get your last name. Because she's the one carrying them for 9 months and squeezing them out of her body, risking her health and life. If she doesn't get the security of marriage for it, at least she'll get to pass on her line. Don't buy a house with someone you're not married to. It's risky enough to have joint finances with someone who's just a boyfriend. Also, it's a problem if you aren't allowed to express yourself without him throwing a pity party in response. He needs to learn how to communicate like an adult before you guys become even more financially entangled. Yup, and also I need you to be completely honest. Do you want to be married to me? You want me to commit to you financially with buying a house together? You want me to tie my life to yours forever by having children together? Marriage comes with benefits and automatic rights and social recognitions that are important to me. Are those future plans something you are planning on backing out of? Is all your talk about future children, future home, future marriage real, or just your way of trying to keep me in this relationship? Do you actually mean to do anything you have been talking about, or are you planning to keep moving the deadline out to sometime in the future? Your BF is using delaying/stalling tactics. Why is that? The poster above has listed some concrete questions that I would be asking at age 29 after 6.5 years together. What is he waiting on? A direct command from God. What is he going to learn in the next 2 years about you that he doesn't already know? I would be concerned that I am in a relationship with a commitment phobe who is never going to commit. It's better to find this out now than spend all of your young years waiting around for your BF to decide that now is the perfect time, because from where I'm sitting, there is never going to be a perfect time for him to make that decision.